Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Back to the Frame Rate, where we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms for your entertainment. I am your host, Nathan Schur, and I'm here with Ellie Escobar, Sam Cole, and Brianna Butterworth. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
Here we are. Hey, you know, we've reached episode number 30.
Impressive.
That's some milestone.
Yeah.
Some form. Yeah. Very good. There aren't enough Star Trek movies to reach this high, but there are enough Godzilla movies.
That's true. Yeah. There's not even enough James Bond movies to get that high.
Oh, we've exceeded that.
We've gone through the roof.
I don't know if there are any other franchises that have gotten up to the 30th movie besides the Godzilla. I'm trying to think if there's any others.
The Fast and the Furious is going to get there.
In time, Fast and the Furious will get there. They'll be like,
did you see my picture?
And I'll watch every single one of them.
Did you see the picture I posted on Facebook today?
Yes.
I did. That's hilarious.
Was it Fast 39 or something? Or I did get a chuckle out of that. Well, it is November. It's a new month, and we have
technically it's not really November yet.
Hey, don't break the illusion, Ellie. It is November because I say it is. The world is listening to this in November, and we are beginning a brand new retrospective series, which I'm really excited about. We are in Noir-Vember, and specifically, we are going to be looking at the film noir or neo-noir films of the 1980s, and we're starting off with Paul Schrader's American Gigolo. And I have a trailer. That's all Ellie, I've been humming that to myself all week.
Me too.
I cannot help it.
I just like, just the Gigolo. I'm cooking into the kitchen. And everywhere I go.
All right. And here's a clip from the trailer for American Gigolo.
You know who I am. I know who you are. I know what you're thinking. You know what I'm thinking. You want to be here. You want to be with me.
His name is Julian Kay.
So what you expected?
His business is pleasure.
Hello, Judy. You're a very sexy lady. Very good looking woman. You don't like me. I can tell. We have a lot of fun.
He is the American Gigolo.
Hello, girls.
The trailer goes on and on. I had to cut it off because there's a 30-second music interlude, and then it keeps going. I love the trailer for this. But so that was a clip from that, and this came out. I was about to get into some of the details of this, but Sam, why don't you take it away for the movie facts?
Greetings. Live from somewhere, it's the movie facts for American Gigolo. This film was released in 1980 and was directed by Paul Schrader. It was edited by Richard Halsey, who also co-edited Rocky Edward Scissorhands and Sister Act 1. Not to be confused with Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, which, let's face it, was not as good. The music was by the father of disco, Giorgio Moroder. The Neverending Story, Scarface, and 1984 Metropolis, which he also did. This film was distributed by Paramount Pictures. It had a budget of $4,800,000 and did decently well worldwide. It grossed $22,743,674,000. This film stars Richard Gere as Julian Kay, Lauren Hutton as Michelle Stratton, Brian Davies as Charles Stratton, and Predator's own Bill Duke as Leon James. Hector Elizondo as Detective Sunday, Nina Van Pallant as Anne, and on a fascinating casting note, the role of Julian almost went to John Travolta, but he had to back out due to family obligations because his mother was sick. Secondly, and thank God this did not happen, it almost went to Chevy Chase. No disrespect, Chevy, I'm glad it was not you. Christopher Reeve, before landing with a much more appropriate Richard Gere. That's Paul Schrader has some comments on the movie, but let's just say that both Siskel and Ebert gave it 3.5 stars separately, and Ebert called it a study in loneliness. Is it a study in loneliness? Find out from our review shortly.
Thank you, Sam. You know what? Did you guys, anyone else read, Paul Schrader has never held back he's dropped a lot of truth bombs in his career. There is a lot circulating out there about his reasons why John Travolta left this project. It had nothing to do with family matters, but he said, I'm not here to spread rumors, but that the reason why is because John Travolta wasn't comfortable with his sexuality to be in this film. And that's the real reason why he left this.
I could see that. I mean, yeah, it's certainly the movie's kind of aggressive with certain, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and Gere picked it up because of the homosexual undertones, which I thought was weird and interesting. But I thought John Travolta dropped out because it would be a disgusting choice for him. Terrible movie if it were made with him.
I actually disagree. I think Travolta could have been in this film, and he would have had I don't know if I don't know if his career would have been any different. I don't know. They have a very similar career path in a lot of ways.
I think
But
Travolta.
they're completely different actors.
Yes. Oh, yes.
They're different. I think Travolta could have pulled it off. I'm so glad it wasn't Chevy Chase, because I think he would have made it like a creepy comedy or something.
Chevy Chase may have gone into more dramatic acting roles, perhaps. Who knows? I don't know. This is all speculation. But anyways, you know what? We didn't do this beforehand because we were trying to do this is like pick our order ahead of time. But let's just do this right now. We're going to go with Sam, Ellie, B, and then myself with our thoughts on this film. So Sam, why don't you jump in and tell us your thoughts on American Gigolo?
Did you want to give a plot synopsis, or would you like me to jump in?
I would like to do a plot synopsis. Thank you.
I'm happy to jump. I always like to talk, but I'm just saying,
I will do a quick plot synopsis of American Gigolo. Here we go. Julian makes a lucrative living as an escort to older women in the Los Angeles area. He begins a relationship with Michelle, a local politician's wife, without expecting any pay. One of his clients is murdered, and Detective Sunday begins pumping him for details on his different clients, something he is reluctant to do considering the nature of his work. Julian begins to suspect he's being framed. Meanwhile, Michelle begins to fall in love with him. So that is a plot synopsis from somewhere on the internet. What's our source, B? I don't know. But it doesn't matter. That sums it up. So, Sam, let's get to your thoughts on American Gigolo.
So I would say, and this is just my opinion, Paul Schrader has definitely done some interesting films. I respect him. I also like Affliction with Nick Nolte. I did not know he directed that film. I like it a lot. For me personally, I did not particularly connect with this film, but I respect it. I appreciated his effort. I thought the kind of noir world of Los Angeles was interesting. I especially liked seeing Los Angeles in 1980 when there's a lot more green trees around and less real estate and like less smog. That's nice. For me, I would say that I enjoyed the second half a lot better. This film runs just less than 2 hours. And the first half, though I respected what it was trying to do, I felt, strangely enough, as if I was watching actors reading lines and doing a good job and trying to like make their performances real. They were, and Richard Gere and everyone in the cast was good. I think for me, and this is why I say this respectfully, because it's not a full-on negative review, though I personally didn't connect with the film, I respect what it was trying to do. My rating system, with the 5-star rating system, I would give it 2.5 out of 5. And the extra half a star would definitely come from the second hour when the noose starts to tighten. I felt more suspense when he was accused and framed for the murder. That kind of worked for me, and I felt kind of engaged. I like slow-paced films. I've never had a problem with that. Deliverance is one of my favorite movies, and that movie is certainly not like a rushed down the river. I just did not
It's not the River Wild, that's for sure.
It's not the River Wild. Nothing is. That movie's incredible. But I just didn't connect, although I respect it. And I know that in the film noir genre, part of the point of movies is like that is you're not sure who a clear protagonist is or who an antagonist is. It's supposed to be murky. It's supposed to be, Roger Ebert was saying the film is a study in loneliness. And I did feel that vibe. I like the camera angles. I think the some of the cinematography is amazing. I just felt a disconnect from the film. And I can't tell if that was me because I've only seen it once. That was just my reaction. I will say I like the buildup of suspense. I like the climax, the second hour a lot better when it came more alive. And there is nothing more entertaining to me than seeing Richard Gere stressed out and trying to solve problems. He's made a career of that. I love it when he's in Mothman and he's confused out of his mind and he's like, what the hell is going on around here? And so the movie like amped up in the second half. The first hour was fine. I thought the characters were good, but I didn't feel a sense of direction, and I just felt my attention start to drift. So I think my review is a little harsh. I could go up to 3. This is just my experience from one viewing, having no history or connection to this movie in my life before, but I did love the soundtrack and the atmosphere. So that would just be my general summing up.
Soundtrack rips.
Soundtrack's amazing. That'd be my general summing up without going into detail. And I did like Bill Duke a lot. And since we don't have to worry about spoilers or anything like that, him being like falling off the building, being semi-thrown off by Richard Gere was a fascinating shocker to me. I was not expecting that. So slightly lukewarm, but not a negative review, not a wildly positive review. This is me having seen the film once. And that would be my sort of general assessment.
Thank you, Sam. All right, Ellie.
In fact,
what are your
Sam? I actually expected him to go off that porch. When he was in that apartment, I'm thinking, okay, when are you gonna throw him off? Come on, throw him off the freaking porch!
Oh my god, it terrifies me that you saw that coming.
I totally saw it coming. I was like, all right, my god! Because to me, it's like if you don't throw him out the window, I'm gonna be really mad because I'm already mad with the movie. Not mad, but I was just like bored. I was bored with the movie. That's the truth. It bored me because it dragged, and like Sam, I have to say it didn't pick up for me until like the second, probably towards the end of the movie. Preferably when he threw him off the window. That's when it picked up for me. That's where the switch happened. Yeah. But before that, to me,
Ellie just needs some carnage. Yeah.
I did wish they'd show him like land on a car with like a dummy and like blood, and I was like,
I thought it was a funny scene because I thought it was he just gets stuck with the boots, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so funny. And the fact that I predicted it, and I was like, I really wanted that to happen, and I'm so happy that it did happen. So, but other than that, like for me at the beginning, the whole movie was just a drag. It dragged. It was so slow. And I do enjoy slow movies depending on the content. But the content of this movie didn't touch me, didn't touch my heart, didn't make me cry, didn't make me laugh. It just made me bored. And then, you say with all due respect. But anyway, respect to what? Because this movie's crap. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. I like Richard Gere. Having said that, he's freaking hot, okay? And is that him naked for real, or is that his body double? Because by the window,
that was a full shot of Richard Gere.
Penis too.
And I think one of the first times that there's full frontal male nudity.
No, well, I wasn't looking at anything else, but anyway. But so he's hot. He's so handsome. I really love everything Gere does. I watch practically every movie he's made, except for this one. I never seen it before. Huh.
I know why.
But so even
the guy can walk like nobody else.
He can walk. Like I love his walk. He's so like I don't know that I can't even say. It's not that he has elegance. He just has like this
He's got swag.
Swag. That's it. He's got swag. And so I love the outfit that he's wearing when he has it on or off. And I like that. I like his walk. I love the cars that he drives.
The black Mercedes 450 SL convertible. That was
perfect movie car. Yeah. That's a great movie car.
But he's always in movies, in cars like that. Have you noticed there's a lot of other films that he's in cars, like sporty looking cars, which is probably his style. But I don't care for the soundtrack, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, whatever. So I'm sorry, okay? But I'm just being honest here, okay? And so there was a romantic element to this movie, but there wasn't really. And then the ending of the movie is like so lame. It's like, dude, could you be more creative with the ending of this movie? Like, made me feel bad for him being in jail, but I don't feel it. I'm sorry. I give it 1 star.
Ellie, tell us how you really feel. I'm worried that you're bottling things.
I give it half a star.
Ellie, I know what you're saying. I feel like a lot of style in this movie, but I don't feel content. Like when there's emotion at the end, I was just kind of like,
she puts her hand on the window, and I'm like, okay. Like, couldn't you come up with a better ending? Like,
no,
it's a whole thing with the ending.
No, it's not. It's not romantic. It's not about love. It's not about it's not. I've seen better movies than that.
Not really. Okay, it's not really about love. It's about a lot of other things. I'm not. Go ahead.
Mind you, I did not enjoy the sexual scenes. I didn't.
I thought surprisingly,
it's like soft porn in this movie.
Well, I don't think so. Honestly, I think this movie has this reputation. I don't mean to jump ahead of you, B, but I think this movie has a reputation of having these explicit sex scenes. But I thought they were very tame. The way I remembered something, I've seen this movie before years ago, and I remember something much more explicit than this movie actually shows. Yes, there's that
false memories
shot of Gere by the window. By the way, the budget for the movie was $5 million. Half of that was spent on Venetian blinds in this movie. I'm telling you.
I can see why. I mean, they did great shots with those. Two really nice shots with those.
But my point is that I don't think this movie was nearly as explicit as I remember it being. Honestly, there's so much more that I've seen in movies that aren't even considered. I think, look at Basic Instinct. Fatal Attraction. I think these movies, Michael Douglas and Billy Baldwin from the 90s and all these movies, they go way further.
That's what I mean. It's soft porn.
This movie is nowhere near as explicit as other things that started when erotic thrillers kind of made a big
I'd say comeback. It's less soft porn and more like dirty magazine you find like hiking one day.
I would rather have something like steamy, hot, hardcore than soft porn. Then I would have been interested, but it was like... I don't know, man.
I'm backing off. I want to hear B's thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah. I love this movie. I'm sorry, guys. I love this movie. I love Paul Schrader. I think this movie is excellent at capturing male displacement. And I think, I don't know. I mean, it's a visual medium. I think style is substance to a certain degree. So I think it's a freaking stylish movie. It established the Giorgio Armani brand, So you got points for that. It's got a supermodel and Lauren Hutton as the female lead. Everybody in this movie is hot. That's a good time. But I just think it does a really good job at creating this disconnect. There's this sort of, I can't really find the word for it, but this disconcerting feeling of this person who doesn't quite blend with their background. There's discord that's happening between him and LA. And, it's someone who desperately wants to fit in. And then he's sort of this outsider, and where does he belong? And the only issue I really have with this movie is that it feels so one-sided coming from Lauren. And I think it's supposed to for a while, but I think that goes on too long. I don't think we're invited into Richard Gere admitting his emotions for Lauren until a little bit too late. But I think that part where he really starts to feel the tension and breakdown that Sam, you were talking about is amazing. I think it kicks it into a whole nother gear, but I don't think you have that if you don't have the sort of like fish swimming in the wrong size pond for a long enough time. I think you sort of need that first, and that sort of cool but off-putting, like it's not cool swagger, it's cool like cold, icy, that you don't always feel, that like Hotel California vibe. I think this captures that really well. I think the ending's great. He ripped off Bresson's pickpocketing. He openly admits to it. I think Schrader does best when he's mining from Bresson's oeuvre. I think he did a great job. I think he ripped off pickpocketing in a couple movies. I think it works. Yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I love it.
Great. All right. Like I said earlier, I hadn't seen this movie in a while, and I'll admit that the first time I watched this, I don't think I was the biggest fan of this. I don't think I really understood what I was watching. I think I expected something else. But I think the greatest satisfaction that I've taken away from this time watching this is that I watch this more as a mood piece than anything else now. I can almost picture Paul Schrader pitching this film to Paramount as a concept with no script at all. But what I think he did emphasize when he was going to the executives, he just said stylish, sexy, provocative, and it's set in Los Angeles. That's all he had to pitch to them. And I think that's really what this movie it encompasses down to. So my thoughts. I was surprised how this film is structured. We spend a lot of time with Julian in his day in the life, his job as a male escort, the meticulous decisions that he's making with his wardrobe. His Giorgio Armani suits are his battle armor, which I got a kick out of. He must choose the right weaponry for each job every night. I got a kick out of this. It's a solid 40 minutes before there's any real threat or danger or the plot really kicks in. And I admit I was kind of looking at my watch a few times, like, where's this movie going? But it didn't bother me all that much, but I can see where there's a certain audience that is going to really get antsy with this film for the first half of this, at least the first 40, 45 minutes of this, because it is a lot of talking. It's a lot of people you're just seeing him go about, really nothing's happening. I get that. If this movie was redone today, and there is, by the way, has anyone seen the series?
I haven't seen it. I heard about it. I haven't seen it.
Barenthal, the guy, the Punisher. I saw the trailer. I am kind of curious, because I think it's a direct sequel to this. It's after Julian gets out of jail 15 years later. So I am intrigued by this. Again, what I still love about this, it's LA, it's 1980, it's got the music scene, it's got the locations. We're visiting these awesome places, like the Sunset Plaza Apartments, Rodeo Drive, the PCH Highway in Malibu, the Probe Nightclub, Beverly Hills Hotel, Tower Records in Westwood. I've been to so many of these places. I have not been to the Probe Nightclub, but so many of these places have been familiar. I lived in LA for 3 years, and even though it's 20 years after this movie was made, it was very nostalgic seeing a lot of these places. And as you mentioned, Sam, it was cool seeing a lot of the green in LA that's not there anymore. But anyways, I'm digressing. But all of these elements, of course, the fashion creates this beautiful cocktail that I found really enchanting and hypnotizing by this film. And I haven't even mentioned like the striking cinematography by John Bailey, who amazingly shoots the Schrader's, I think, acid lit vision of LA, which I just loved so much. So in a nutshell, I really enjoyed this film. I think the second half, it kicks into gear. I was not bored at all watching this. I found it, a little bit of a struggle at the beginning, but I think it lays groundwork. I enjoyed getting to seeing a film where it takes the time to show us his routine. And listen, I am a heterosexual straight man. I had no problem seeing Richard Gere strut around and walk around in those amazing suits. It was amazing seeing this. So I had a great time. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I think I could have given a higher rating if maybe it moved along a little bit better in the first half. So that is my quick review of American Gigolo. By the way, Sam, you mentioned before, I think, was it Roger Ebert or somebody said that this was something about a lonely man. What was that?
Study in Loneliness.
So this is actually part of a trilogy, Paul Schrader's Lonely Man trilogy. Has anyone else seen the other movies, Light Sleeper and The Walker? That concludes the 2 movies in this trilogy.
I have not seen those other films, no.
So he's known for having like bookend movies and trilogy movies. So I'm just curious if that's something, if anyone else wants to see those movies and did like American Gigolo that's listening to this, those are 2 other movies in this, I guess it's sort of a trilogy of films about the Lonely Man trilogy. So that's something to check out.
Ellie's going to watch the next 2 of those films tonight, right, Ellie?
No, not happening. Not happening.
I think this is important. I have a question to ask everyone here. So is Paul Schrader the originator of this vision of this world, the style, the fashion, the cars, this whole outlook on this LA scene, because, or is he making a commentary on this world that already existed? Because I don't think I've seen a movie that has this look before. This was filmed, I think, around 1979. It came out in 1980. But the prevalence of the Armani fashion, the luxury cars, I'm unsure if this existed in this manner prior to American Gigolo. And I think it's worth noting that not long after this movie's release, Armani suits became wildly popular, and even making their way to the likes of like Pat Riley, who's wearing them on the sidelines of Lakers games like a year later. So I'm just curious, did this movie have that big an influence on culture, or is he commentating on something that's already happening in the scene?
Do you mean fashion culture?
It's not just the fashion. I feel like it's the music. It's the music, the style, the cars. It's the club life. I'm just curious. I think it's a whole cocktail of all these things. I feel like this is ushering in the 80s right here, right now. I think that's why this movie is such a moment in time. It's such an important film.
It's possible. I mean, I don't know him as well as a director. So, I mean, it's possible he ushered it in, or it's possible it was happening in the time and he like tapped into what was going on. And that's what I can't really tell. Although I did like how the movie looked. Like I did feel the 1980 vibe strongly,
Mm-hmm. I think it's probably a little bit of both, but I think there's a lot of like counterculture and gay subtext that's coming out. Like, I think he maybe is putting that more into the mainstream, but just even thinking about like even Warhol movies and stuff like that, and the focus on physique, I think that stuff is reminiscent of like even the late 60s. But then I think of, Brian De Palma, even to a certain extent later in the 80s, doing some of this kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
We talked.
It didn't have that much success when it first came out, so I have a hard time imagining it it didn't have that much financial success when it first came out, so I have a hard time imagining it as like an iconoclast for the culture.
When I think of like early 80s style financial success more, I think of like Scarface and people just like, even though it wasn't like well reviewed, but it's like got that 80s vibe amped kind of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about the ending of this film, because I think we have some different views on this. And sounds like, B, you're a huge fan. I don't know, Sam, were you not? I know, Ellie, you were not, but I'm unsure how I feel about the ending. I want to hear what you guys think.
I didn't think it was bad per se. I just did not feel like I didn't feel much connection emotional engagement in this movie, even in the second half. And there was an improvement. So I thought the ending was fine, but part of me was thinking, why isn't Richard Gere like pleading to the cops more and showing that he was framed once he found out? He seems to kind of like give up, and he's like, oh.
Because he's so cool.
Yeah, he's like, after he like throws him out the window, he's like, oh man, I'm screwed. And he just kind of like, nobody talk to me, leave me alone, I'm terrible. And I'm like, no man, like I would be like fighting for my case. So I thought it was fine, but I would have liked to have seen him like get out of jail and like escape with her and like have them go somewhere aside from
there
just
you
like,
go.
Does he go to jail for the murder of Leon, or is he just in jail for the frame job?
I think he's in jail for the
frame job.
Yeah.
Because the cop, the person, that guy told him, you're not even going to be charged for Leon's death. But
okay,
for me, this is me watching the movie and the ending of the movie. What? That's the end? What the hell? That is the end? No, I wanted them to finish it differently. Like Sam said it. I wanted him. I thought she came to visit him. She puts, she puts the hand on the window, and he was going to like, first I thought he was going to put his hand next to her, on top of her, through the window, well, whatever, on the window. And then I thought, okay, maybe they're just going to like walk out together and, whatever.
I know it's a reference to the Luc Besson film, but it also has a very biblical connotation too.
Biblical? What movie were you watching? Because that's not what I was watching.
That's what I felt.
Biblical. Okay, I want to hear what you mean by that.
I just think it did. He's
How?
I just felt that.
Okay.
Yeah. He actually talks about it in a biblical sense. He says that it was a grace note as unwarranted as Christ's promise to the thief on the cross.
Who said that?
Paul Schrader. He said he lifted the ending of Pickpocket and gave it to Julian Kay, a grace note as unwarranted as Christ's promise to the thief on the cross, which I think is really in line with Schrader's view of this like holier than thou male archetype and the redemption that he's getting at the end of this movie. It feels redemptive. Yeah.
She had mentioned she was going to Rome. I thought they were going to get like on a plane or something.
Yeah, like exactly. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for that moment. Like, oh hell yeah! Like that would have even been a little bit more like, yes,
it's
romantic.
Not going anywhere. So I just want to say a couple things about the ending. I think that this ending is very sloppy. Actually, Michelle's visiting him in jail, and they have this scene where she's visiting. She visits him, and then it goes to this another interrogation scene.
And it fades out between them. And I was like, what? Yeah.
And then they return with another interrogation, another scene where they're together. And that's the final scene. I believe this part of the film could have been a lot more concise, especially considering we're approaching this very quiet and emotionally charged moment at the end. The extended ending, it felt like it has like 3 endings or something. I don't know. And it's leading to...
It could have just shifted up her interrogation and then just had the time that they're together.
Question whether Schrader had a well-defined vision for this conclusion, particularly with those fade outs, which weren't present anywhere else in this movie. It made me think that ending was really haphazardly re-edited, or he didn't really know what he had or how to put it together.
That's what I felt. I felt that kind of like it didn't quite land, and like I'm half joking here, but like when he put the hand up on the window, I half expected the Curb Your Enthusiasm music. Where it's like, and you're like, it's over. That's what it felt like. And I was like, what?
Well, even give me, or at least give me some romantic song that goes with the window thing, but nothing. It's just like
it does just blup. Kind of end. Yeah.
I liked it. I don't think it was like perfectly executed, but I liked it. I thought it kind of humanized him, and the whole thing was her being like, "Oh, you just like you go to work. You go to work when you're with me." And then he was seen as like a 3-dimensional person. And then Blondie played, and I was happy enough.
I love Blondie, and I love Blondie, and I love the song. This movie didn't have anything for me, so just nothing. Carlos came down and she's like, "What's the matter, Mom?" She's on my face. He goes, "What's the matter, Mom?" I'm dying, Carlos. I'm dying watching this stupid movie. No, I'm just kidding. This movie's just not.
Oh my God.
Carlos, it's I don't know. I'd take The Exorcist 2 over this movie.
Wow. What do you think about his yellow gremlin that he has to drive? He has to get rid of his Mercedes and drive the yellow gremlin.
The cars were cast incredibly well in this film.
We need to go back to where the cars were colorful on the street because less accidents. The cars now are all gray and gloomy.
I totally agree.
You don't even see them coming at you. Like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's the reason for the accidents, but yeah, I agree.
It might help.
Yeah, more color.
I don't know if you want to get this information away to the world, but where are you right now?
Me? Oh, I'm in Whistler, British Columbia.
Oh, okay. I know you were near LA. Yeah, but how?
Not near LA. No.
I so badly want to drive the PCH. Again.
Oh, I love the PCH. What's interesting to me about this movie is because I live in LA now, and like the LA itself does not particularly, and not in a bad way, does not particularly exude its own atmosphere. It's like this big open blank that directors put their own impression on. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting seeing Paul Schrader of it, but it's very pleasant. I mean, I love the PCH.
The PCH that doesn't exist anymore, though. I mean, it was like this.
It doesn't exist.
It's so built up now. You can't just like drive like that on the PCH anymore.
You can't. I mean, there's still beautiful like hills and like vistas and coming around turns, but it's a lot more congested than that. But there are parts of LA that are beautiful and like I don't mean that. What I'm saying is I don't mean that LA doesn't exude its own atmosphere. It's kind of like, to me, New York always feels a very specific way. And so every time you see New York in a film, in New York City, Manhattan, directors can put variations on it, but it's always, there's an underpinning of, we're looking at New York. LA, there's something about it where people can invent their own vision of it, and each vision is different. I really like Michael Mann's Heat a lot because I like the way LA looks in that movie. Yeah.
Can I just say something?
Go for it.
Every day at work, my survival job, we're talking acronyms. I am horrible with acronyms. I don't know what they stand for. I always have to ask, what the heck does ABCD mean? And when you say PCH, I'm breaking my head, and I'm thinking, like, why do acronyms follow me? So I had to actually Google it and say, what is PCH? It's Pacific Coast Highway.
It is.
Yes.
And by the way, Ellie, you would totally love TOTK. Oh, what a great video game. Oh, sorry. Tears of the Kingdom, Legend of Zelda plugin. Available on Nintendo Switch now. It's amazing.
I'm
sorry, Ellie.
Guys, should I get a Switch?
Those from the...
I thought you guys were talking about a card at first.
No, I totally hear this. Some acronyms really throw me off, too. Like, just listen to any financial, like, like radio station, like, oh, the CPK and the KK, blah, blah, and the THC. And I'm like, so what you're saying is the company lost money. I
feel like people that speak with acronyms that's just a lazy way of speaking.
Yeah, but if we start calling it the Pacific Coast Highway, we lose all credibility.
Why?
Yeah.
We just do. We can't talk about
the because it's the PCH, bro. It's the PCH.
It's just what it is.
Fine.
It's like calling it the Mass Pike. We wouldn't call it the Massachusetts Turnpike.
Well, I do.
As Uma Thurman said in Pulp Fiction, don't be a...
Square?
Yes.
See, that's a movie where John Travolta
Yeah, but that was
works.
A really freaking cool movie. Yeah.
It's a great movie. Yeah. Big Pulp Fiction fan.
I love Pulp Fiction.
Well...
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
This was, I think, a great conversation about American Gigolo. I am seriously.
See what you did, Nathan. See what you did.
I love that we had different opinions on this. All of us were all over the map on this, and I think that makes a great conversation. But what will make this even greater is when we get to this.
Mm-hmm. Something in this field could be releasing the chemical into the air when there's too many of us together.
Don't eyeball me, boy. I see your mother driving up and down the street looking at me. I'll be your stepfather by the week.
It's a bad time, Bob. I'm serious. If I leave now, I'm not coming back.
You ever hear the expression,
You got a face only a mother can love?
Let's just stay ahead of the wind.
That is our bumper for our newly retitled wall casting, where we recast a character from this film with Mark Wahlberg. And I'm really curious what everyone's picks are for this movie.
There's only one pick. There's only one pick.
Who wants to? Well, I don't want to keep asking it, but Sam, I want you to go first. Who do you pick?
I think he would make a great, is it Detective Sunday? Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Hector Elizondo.
That's
he would
the
make
pick.
a great, he'd be like, how can you deny this? Your fingerprints are at the scene. You don't have an alibi. I saw you there. I know you're guilty. Are we really playing games here? Julian, how much more time is this going to take? You're guilty. I just like I could see him delivering the lines. Or there's one line when Julian is like, "Hey, Mr. Sunday," he's like, "No, that's Detective Sunday to you, screwball." So I would put Mark Wahlberg as a detective. I couldn't put him as Richard Gere's character because it doesn't fit at all. Like it just doesn't fit. Yeah.
No.
It would be the wrong vibe completely.
So Detective Sunday has got my vote for sure.
I'm going to jump ahead and say I agree completely. That's my pick as well.
Yeah, he could do that one. Yeah.
It breaks my heart because I love Hector Elizondo. I think in most things, I think he's a great actor.
He's a great actor. Yeah.
Every time he comes up,
it's okay. They get back together in Pretty Woman.
Together in a bunch. They work also in Runaway. What's the other one? Runaway Bride. Another one with Richard Gere.
Yeah.
They work together all the time. Yeah. They're like bros. Yeah. Anyone else?
Ellie, what about you?
I plug in Leon in Mark. I plug Mark Wahlberg as Leon. Yeah.
All right.
Because I can see him screaming going down the building.
Whining.
I think I think Johnny Carson in 1980 should have played Richard Gere's kid. He'd be like, "Oh, feeling slightly aroused here. This is wild. Want me to take off my shirt?"
Oh man!
I'm definitely a fan of the ladies.
I want to hear the scene where he seduces the woman that's like coked up in bed.
Isn't she the one that got murdered?
Yeah.
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 That's the scene from the trailer too. Yeah.
Well, who killed her anyway?
Oh, that other guy, the guy that the other one that was Bill Duke's, Bill Duke's other pimp did it, and then Bill Duke framed.
The blondie.
Yeah, blondie.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's how much I was into the movie.
Yeah.
B, did you have a pick for recasting or something else or something?
First choice, definitely Detective Sunday. I thought there's that one scene where I was like, it might be interesting to put him as the politician, Charles Stratton, because they have that one scene in the courtyard and he has that great line where he's like, "You get on by the good graces of the people around you. You're a hanger-oner." And I just think that would be kind of fun. Be a good one. But Detective Sunday's the pick. I mean, that's what you have to do.
All right, excellent. So I think we already did our ratings for this, but the last thing I want to get to before we close the book on this is I would love for each of us to submit our MVP of this movie, whether it's a scene, an actor, somebody that worked on this. Ellie, you're helping at this. It could be any element of this movie. It could be the Venetian blinds, which I considered. But whatever it is, submit one thing that is the MVP of this movie. Sam.
So I actually liked Bill Duke a lot. I haven't seen him in a lot of other films. He's so I so associate him with Predator, and so it was fascinating to see him in this movie. And I honestly did not suspect him at all until there were shots of him getting in the car with the politician towards the end. And when his scene at the end, when he's like, "You're frameable," and he was like ice cold, I was impressed by his performance. So I did like him. I mean, I was Bill Duke added to the movie for me for sure.
All right.
Yeah. Such a good job.
Ellie, dare I ask?
My favorite my MVP scene, you guys already know. It's that one where, he's like going down and he's like, okay, it's just watching Gere with them 2 boots on his hands, like just struggling to hold on to him, and he's not going. He's like, and then what I did not, I expected him to go over it. What I didn't expect is those boots were hanging off.
It was a little unintentionally comical when he's like, "Don't fall." He's just don't fall. But I'm like, you're the one that pushed him. What did you think was going to happen? And then
I thought, it's one thing if he fell and he still had the boots on, but he left the boots behind. So, that takes the MVP for me.
B, what's your MVP?
Soundtrack.
Excellent. Great soundtrack. My MVP, I'm giving to the entire opening driving sequence with Richard Gere driving down the PCH, setting the mood for this. I love it, which includes the Blondie's Call Me song and just him driving in that black Mercedes. I love that so much.
That's because you think that's you in that Mercedes driving the MPCH.
Perfect.
Whatever you say. MPCH.
What's that phrase like? Women want him and men want to be him. It's that whole thing,
Nathan, I somehow picture you just doing this to your hair,
But at the same time, I can say that, but you know what? These are emotionally and intellectually vapid people. These are not smart people. So I'm not really jealous of anybody, including Richard Gere in this movie. This guy doesn't really know what's going on in the world. I don't think he's not an educated man. So he's street smart, but I'm not jealous of him really.
No. Let me tell you, I think Richard Gere takes ballet dancing classes. Yeah. That's why he walks the way he does.
Yeah, and he knows 6 languages. He's got some things going for him. But those looks are not going to take. Richard Gere is still a good-looking man at 74. So I shouldn't say those looks are not going to take him too far. They did take him far. So never mind.
So is Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott is hot.
Sam Elliott?
Yes, I find him extremely sexy.
So when you think Richard Gere, you think
I'll take Sam Elliott, Ford, and Gere, all 3.
I still think Johnny Carson in the main role. He'd be like, "Oh, I would have charged $5,000, but $2,500 for you, sweetheart."
Johnny Carson's not hot though.
Oh my god!
I know. That's why I'm doing the antithesis of what.
No, he reminds me of Bush. He does. The young Bush, the President Bush. Oh wait, there was 2 Bushes that were president. Not the dad, the son.
The son.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for this conversation. As we transition to our next segment, I just want to express our gratitude for tuning into our show. Your feedback on our discussion of American Gigolo means a lot to us. You can connect with us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Back to the Frame Rate, or email us at backtotheframerate@gmail.com. Your support is greatly appreciated. And if you have a moment, please consider leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your preferred podcast platform. Thank you sincerely for your support. Oh, in addition, we're excited to announce the release of our newsletter, Frame Rate Monthly. By the time this episode drops, our second episode or edition or newsletter will have dropped already. The newsletter is packed with details about our podcast, including what we're currently watching, upcoming discussion topics, interactive polls, and other engaging content. To subscribe to the newsletter, simply send an email to us at backtotheframerate@gmail.com. And be sure to include newsletter in the subject line. And speaking of the newsletter, I think I want to do this. If you are a subscriber, or something that I think would entice people to subscribe, is we have a poll in the newsletter, and I would love everyone that's listening to participate in it. And since we're in Noir-Vember, the poll question is: what is your favorite decade of film noir movies? And it's either 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, or 1990s? I know that's a lot of options, but if you go to the poll question, I will have a link in the show notes. You can go to our poll and pick what your favorite decade of film noir movies are. Film noir / neo-noir. And there's a lot of options for each of those decades that you can select from. So it's just whatever decade is your favorite decade of film noir. So yeah, and I think that's going to be a poll that's going the entire month of November. And for the last episode of November, we will announce what the winning decade was. So yeah, let's get a bunch of people to participate in that. And I'd love to see what everyone picks as the favorite decade. So yeah, there we go. Let's move on to our recommendation shelf.
Sir,
What?
are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Well, have you heard anything about either one of them?
I find it's best to stay out of other people's affairs.
You mean you haven't heard anybody say anything about either one of these?
Nope.
Well, what about these two?
Oh, they suck.
All right. It is time for our recommendation shelf where we recommend a film that we love. And this week, we are recommending underrated Richard Gere films. That's a pretty cool tie-in to this week's review. And yeah, this should be a lot of fun. Is everyone ready for this?
Sí.
Ready?
All right. Sam, since you are going first for everything this week, let's begin with you.
Number one, Ferrari. Anyway, I don't know what's this is channeling my Adam Driver there, but
I can't wait for Ferrari. Yeah.
it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, I hope it's good.
It's gonna be so good.
But, so this movie was actually critically well received. I'm putting it in underrated Richard Gere film because I don't know if a lot of people have seen it, and I love this movie. It's called Arbitrage. Came out in 2012.
I haven't seen it.
Directed by Nicholas Jarecki, and it budget of 12 million, box office 35 million, and the cast is amazing. It's Richard Gere, Susan Sarandon, Nate Parker, Tim Roth, Britt Marling, and many more. I love this movie. I think it's amazing. It's really unfair to compare it to American Gigolo because they're two different beasts. For me personally, I find it incredibly suspenseful, emotionally engaging. I will, without giving things away, because there's something that happens at the beginning that I really think should be a surprise if you haven't seen it. Richard Gere is a billionaire, successful New York businessman, flies all around the world, gets into trouble early on in the film, and Tim Roth is the detective that comes after him. I feel an emotional connection to this movie. It's suspenseful. It's amazing. The dialogue, the writing, the acting. I would put this in my top 20 favorite films. If you guys get the chance to see it, I really don't want to give too much away because it's recent enough that if anyone's interested in having seen it, it's not film noir, but it's definitely thriller, detective story, and it is unconventional. It plays with tropes. It does not play out typically, and Richard Gere's performance is excellent in it. I've seen this movie several times, and I think, just speaking for the three of you, obviously I have no idea what your reaction would be, but my guess is it'd be towards the positive. Ellie, I think for some reason that you would specifically like this movie a lot. I absolutely love it. That's my recommendation. I don't want to say too much about it, but if you guys haven't seen it, check out 2012's Arbitrage. Richard Gere, excellent drama, suspenseful, an amazing performance by Tim Roth, who is always upset that billionaires that he tries to convict are always getting away with crimes over and over. He's like, I'm sick of it, and I want to convict these people. And it's great. That's all I'll say. A glowing 5 out of 5 stars for me on that one.
Yay.
Great. This has been on my radar for like 10 years. I have never just gotten around to it, though. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I love a Tim Roth shout out. I feel like we're just Pulp Fiction adjacent.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
today.
And I will say really quick, it's really nice to see especially in modern times, a dramatic movie with great production design was only $12 million to make. And I know that's like no small chunk of change, but in modern times, for a movie to cost $12 million and look like that and have that whole New York backdrop is like hopeful to me, because we've seen too many movies in 2023 that have like $300 million budgets and they don't look that great. So it's a win-win.
Well, thank you, Sam.
Yeah, 2012. Oh, yeah.
All right. Ellie, tell us about your recommendation.
So for me, this has nothing to do with, how do you say, noir films?
Yeah, we're not doing film noir. It's underrated Richard Gere performances or films.
I do like to see Richard in other movies other than, being the gigolo. So I recently actually watched this film. It's called Hachi. I think.
Oh, the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was shot locally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was it?
This was, shot locally. Yeah.
You mean
Providence, in Rhode Island.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So several reasons why I love this movie and I recommend it. If you love dogs, watch this film. It's going to make you cry. It's going to make you, at the beginning of the movie, it's going to make you really happy, but then it's going to make you really sad and cry, which it did for me. And it's just so amazing. This is based on a true story that happened in Japan in the 1930s. And this dog, it's what's the kind of dog? Hachi? No.
Husky?
No, it's not husky.
Like a Shiba? Like a Shiba?
Taki. I can think. Hold on. What do they call them? I had it.
It's not
the
Shiba
dog is I'll tell you, Akira. It's an Akira dog. And sometimes I think of my own dog as maybe it's got a little bit of Akira in her. But
the dog is so cute.
She's half chow and half husky.
Oh,
and she's like the most so dogs are devoted to you. Do you guys have dogs? I won't even ask if you have dogs.
I used to, yeah.
I grew up with dogs.
Spaniel.
Yeah.
So they're like unconditional love, devoted to you, and like they'll take a bullet for you, right? Well, this story of this dog is, and I'm very briefly going to say it's just so touching. It's got so much heart, and basically this dog becomes, I guess, follows Richard to his house one day because he got lost in a train station, and basically ends up with Richard Gere. And every time Richard goes to work, the dog comes with him, waits for him at the train station till he comes back. Then after work, like 9 to 5, it's there waiting. They walk together back home. Till one day he doesn't come back because he had like a heart attack, I think, and then he died. And then the poor dog is waiting and waiting. And supposedly this dog waited for that owner for 10 years in the same spot every day. My heart broke.
So sad.
But there's a good side to this where you see all the other people around the train station become friends with the dog, so because he was there all the time, and even the hot stand guy selling hot dogs gives like hot dogs to the dog while he waits for Richard to come back, and like he doesn't get it that he's not coming back. And the wife of the Richard's wife in the movie, she moves and leaves him behind like nothing. Like that's so cruel. But the fact that this is a true story is even more touching for me. I love it. If you love dogs, watch it. It's gonna just one day when you're like on a weekend, rainy day, get your Kleenex, get your popcorn, and watch.
Right. I bet it's better than Snow Dogs with Cuba Gooding Jr.
I need to ask you, Ellie, don't answer this, but does this movie come with any trigger warnings with dogs? Like, do I need to don't answer this question. Do I need to direct people to the website doesthedogdie.com?
That's the dogdie.com? Why would you do all dogs die and go to heaven, but eventually? I mean,
there are I don't want you to answer this question because I don't want you to spoil the movie, but there is an important website out there for people that are very sensitive about this called doesthedogdie.com, where anybody who's listening that is interested in this movie can go to that website and plug in a title for a movie that includes a dog, and they can see ahead of time if the dog is okay at the end of the movie. I have to do this for every movie that my daughter watches that has a dog in it now. So I'm just letting people know if they're curious for this movie. And this is a real thing. This is like dogs in movies is a real trigger for people.
Yeah.
So I'm just letting anyone know that.
Not that I recall. I think it's just basically he gets old.
Okay.
Waiting
anyway,
for the owner.
You don't have to spoil it, but I'm just letting the audience know that this is a website that you can check out.
Never knew of that website.
It's a resource.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just cover dogs; it'll cover other things too. Right?
But you get the snakes, decapitation, farting, choking, anti-Semitism, a lot of things. You can see all sorts of triggers. Yeah,
triggers.
I did see a squirrel get run over once, and it was kind of funny. But anyway.
Oh, Sam.
By the way, and I keep wanting to do this before we get too far away through our recommendations. Sam, where is Arbitrage? I think that's on Tubi and Pluto, and you can also rent it on VOD. And I was just looking here that Hachi is. I think you put Prime, but I think it's only available on video on demand for rental or purchase, as far as I can see.
Yeah. Streaming agencies.
Yeah, it's not streaming anywhere, but it's available for purchase or rent.
Yeah.
Okay. B, what is your recommendation this week?
Sure. I chose Breathless, the 1983 reimagining of Godard's movie. Of course, the 60s French classic. It's just kind of a fun, wacky performance from Richard Gere. I think you get to see a different side to him. I think he plays it intentionally weird. I think he runs I don't know. It's just kind of a funky performance from him, but I think it works. I think it works with the sort of zaniness of the movie. It's just fun. It's just something fun and different to check out if you want to see a totally different side to his portfolio of stuff. So check it out and, do a double feature.
I debated Breathless as my recommendation because I actually like this movie probably more than I should, because I think it's my first exposure. Can I say it? First exposure to Richard Gere was Breathless.
I thought Gigolo was your first one.
No,
Gigolo was our first exposure.
No, I saw Breathless probably at a way too young of an age, back in probably the early mid 80s or so. I don't know what I was probably watching. Is it Natasha Kinski? Yes, I think
so.
That brought me into adulthood.
So.
Probably Natasha Kinski. I don't know, but yeah, that was an experience.
It's a fun movie, I just think it's cool performances. It's a fun reimagining. It's got a totally different feeling than Godard's movie. So I think if you're watching it expecting like an American take on a French New Wave film, I don't think that's what you're going to get. I think you're just going to get like a small time hustler, and they sort of flip around the nationalities. But I still think it's an interesting performance, and you get to see Gere sort of hashing out who he's going to be on the screen and sort of how he's going to interpret dialogue and character. So it's a fun choice. I think it's a fun double feature. You can check it out on Prime.
It sounds like something I want to watch because if it's not going to be like, a Gigolo, then
I think it's a great double feature.
He is fully clothed.
I think it's a great double feature with American Gigolo. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Okay. All right, my recommendation shelf. Let's see here. Well, let me just say this: my overall thoughts. I want to share this first on Richard Gere. Is that I think he is overall an underappreciated actor in general. Yeah. He's had a very interesting career path.
Agree.
He's never taken. First of all, he's never really taken a backseat to anyone in his films. He's even in the later part of his career, at the minimum, he's either had top billing or he's been co-billed. I think of him actually, as a relic from a bygone era of Hollywood, of the leading men. When I think of the likes of like Clark Gable or Cary Grant or Humphrey Bogart, because they were considered like the king of cool. And I compare Richard Gere to these types of actors, not necessarily in terms of box office or always, the success of their films, but he's always reminded me kind of like with their demeanor. The perform,
classically good looking,
very elegant,
naughty, timeless.
These actors, were huge stars and they'll always be forever mentioned, as icons of cinema. But I wouldn't say they had the greatest range as performers. And I think it's something that is the same for Richard Gere. He's got his lane. And he definitely had his lane for a time in the late 70s through the early 80s as a sex symbol. And he amazingly transformed himself after a dismal 7-year run up until the early 1990s, when he became like a rom-com leading man and actually kind of like an action star when you think about it. And looking back at his career, I wish he was given more opportunities from our tour directors, like maybe a Quentin Tarantino or David Fincher or P.T. Anderson, or even like David Lynch to see how he could.
Oh, he'd be so good in Paul Thomas Anderson. Sorry. Although I do love him in Days of Heaven,
and just see how he would collaborate with them. I mean, Oliver Stone. How did Richard Gere never work with Oliver Stone? I just don't know how that never happened. But the movie that I am picking is Internal Affairs, directed by Mike Figgis, which came out in 1990. And I'm picking this for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think this film truly marks the beginning of the second renaissance for Richard Gere's comeback after a disastrous period between 1984 and 1989 when he was in a series of critical and commercial flops. It came out in January of 1990, just 2 months prior to Pretty Woman, which came out in March. That film obviously took over the world, put Julia Roberts on the map, and once again made Gere a bankable leading man. Internal Affairs also stars Andy Garcia, Nancy Travis, Laurie Metcalf, and it's one of Billy Baldwin's very first performances. So this is a crime thriller revolving around police corruption, and it centers on the two leading performances from Richard Gere and Andy Garcia, who I think are really wonderful in this. Garcia is this young, idealistic internal affairs officer assigned to investigate police corruption in the department, which leads him to Gere, who's this highly decorated police officer. Gere is absolutely Machiavellian in this film. Not only is this an extremely underrated Richard Gere performance, I also think it's one of the most underrated movie. He's one of the most underrated movie villains of all time. To use the term unscrupulous, I think is an understatement. I only wish Gere took on more opportunities throughout his career to play characters like this. He's always kind of, I think of him as either the romantic lead or usually the morally righteous hero. And this is such a great turn for him to play such an evil person. I've never seen him do a role, unless I have not seen every movie in his catalog, but I can't think of another movie where he plays a character that is just so morally corrupt and such a horrible person. And I love this because of that. So this is a film that I watched over and over and over again in the 90s, and it's one of my favorites. And I think it still holds up. I rewatched it again recently, and I think it's just as good as it was when I was seeing it many times in the 90s. So this is Internal Affairs, and right now it's streaming on Prime Video and Paramount Plus, and it's on VOD.
I do love it, Internal Affairs. I really liked it when I watched that.
Shout out again to Arbitrage, because though he's not evil in it, he's corrupt. He's towards that direction. So yeah.
Well, and
I love this because I haven't seen any of your recommendations. So this is really
this makes me want to see Arbitrage even more now.
I want to see Arbitrage. Have you ever seen Unfaithful?
I love that
movie.
Oh
my God, right?
Good.
I was just, dude,
It was that movie that made my grandmother recite the most harrowing line I've ever heard her say. She looked at me dead in the face and said, "Wouldn't mind having Richard Gere's boots under my bed." And that's the moment I learned my grandmother was a woman. So,
by the way, guys, there's the scene where they stand in the lineup in Gigolo.
They do so much standing,
and
in
then
this
Gigolo,
movie.
that scene where they're like standing there. It kind of reminded me of the what are the Suspects something movie?
Oh, Usual Suspects.
The Usual Suspect. Yeah. It kind of reminded me of that movie when that they took that scene from the Gigolo to do The Usual Suspects.
Possibly, yeah. All right, let's move on to our last segment of the show, Movie Musings, where we each share what we've been watching or what we want to watch. That's coming up. So let's begin. I'm not going to say who. Let's start with Sam.
Hey, everybody. So I will mention a movie that I want to watch. And this is not a usual choice for me because this is a sequel to a movie that by all accounts I should not have loved as much as I did because it commits a bunch of CGI sins. It's like overloaded with special effects. It's stuffed. It's like montage-esque in its pacing. But I actually, for some reason, love this movie. I'm referring to 2018's Aquaman. There's a lot of Marvel movies that I've enjoyed. This is a DC movie, and this is the one DC movie that I really like that's very like lighthearted and action-packed. And just a lot of fun. It's one of those weird things where I saw it in the theater and I thought it was okay. I like it more and more. I'm excited for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom coming out December 22nd.
It's the James Wan magic,
James Wan,
baby.
Exactly. I love James Wan, and like he just made it so much fun. And I really like the first one, so I'm nervous. I'm hoping that lightning strikes twice because the movie is like sublimely ridiculous. And I saw the trailer for the second one, and you can't tell with a modern trailer because like it looks fine, but it's kind of like trailers these days are somewhat impenetrable, not in a bad way, just in a kind of marketing way. So I hope it's good. I'm looking forward to it. Don't know a lot about it except the basic plot. I just had so much fun with the first Aquaman. It feels like part action epic, part Goonies, part spectacle, just drenched in CGI, which usually I don't like, but it was like joyous overkill, fun craziness. So looking forward to that movie for sure.
Great.
I love that. He waved his magic wand.
Yeah, exactly. It was fun.
Ellie, are you ready to go next?
Yes. So I've been watching, hold on. I've seen, this weekend I saw Pain Hustlers, which, Emily Blunt, which I love her, and I love Emily, and one of my favorites, Captain America. Okay, Chris Evans, he's so hot. Anyway, I worked with him before on set, yes, and I got to see him like this close, and we got to talk anyway. But he's the sweetest man ever, very kind. Okay, so I watched Pain Hustlers 2023 on Netflix by David Yates, I guess. It is about the pharmaceuticals.
You did something besides Harry Potter?
Oh, wow. We did.
He directed some Fantastic Beast movies. So it's like, hey,
that's all he's been doing. The guy has done like 7 like Harry Potter franchise films in a row, I think, but that's impressive.
But there you go. It's actually a really good movie, and it's based on this, the pharmaceuticals and the selling of opioids, and and how really I think it was a great film, but it's a good film for Netflix. And I love the actors, and I love what it stands for, which is about, the morality of these pharmaceuticals, that they don't have any morals. They just sell you drugs. And we as humans are slaves to medical drugs anyway. So watch it. Then I watched No Hard Feelings 2023 with Jennifer Lawrence, another one of my favorites.
I thoroughly enjoyed that film.
There was nothing wrong with that movie. Every part of that movie I enjoyed thoroughly. Everything. I especially love the nude scene with Jennifer Lawrence where she does kung fu. It's just like, what? When she came out of...
You could have given me a million years to guess how your sentence would end, and I wouldn't have gotten it.
There's a great, not to spoil too much, but if anyone has not seen it here on the podcast or in the audience, there's just an amazing scene with her coming on the beach, just kicking ass, completely naked, and it's so unexpected. I don't want to spoil too much on it, but
no,
go ahead. It is amazing.
And the thing is, Jennifer Lawrence is such a I love her because she don't care about anything. She is who she is, and she's not apologetic about who she is. And I love that about her because I can't be the same way. I don't have to apologize to anybody about who I am. It is, you take me as I am or you don't. I don't really care. And she's the same way, and I love it. It's the fact that she's interviewed by, after the Oscars, she says, "What are you wearing?" She goes, "What am I wearing? A dress. What are you asking me for?" Like, that's something I would answer anyway as well. So I was like, yeah, that's my girl. Anyway, I also watch Bodies, a limited series on Netflix. Dude, whoa. Have you seen that series yet?
I'm hearing a lot of buzz. I'm hearing a lot of good buzz.
Okay, it's throwing me for a loop, and I haven't finished it yet, but I don't know what to make of it yet. I don't know what's going on. I really don't know what's going on. But it's very what do you call it? Quantum mechanic.
I used to go with Quantumania.
And I love anything quantum mechanics. So and I don't know. I can't tell you. It's just very intriguing, mysterious, scientific. And it takes, it's about 3 different, what do you call it? Seasons, decades. It's based in 1890, 1941, and then 2023, and then 2053.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know what it's about. I'm still in the mysterious part. I haven't yet figured it out.
What platform is Bodies on?
Netflix.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Ellie.
That's awesome.
B, what have you been watching?
Well, I know our listeners are going to be hearing us in the future, but I'm coming at you from the past where it's not quite Halloween. So I've been doing my spooky stuff. I was really excited. I hadn't seen this yet. I finally got to tuck into Abel Ferrara's The Addiction, which I just thought was really fantastic. 1995. It's on the Criterion Channel. Abel's the king of cool. I think if you like Jim Jarmusch, if you like No Wave, if you like black and white movies in New York, this is a good one and you should check it out. I can see how it would be polarizing. I think it could easily come across as pretentious, but I thought it was really well executed. I thought it moved. It has brilliant casting. Edie Falco is in it. Christopher Walken is in it. Check it out. It's just a great vampire movie and very open about it being an analogy for addiction and Ferrara's own journey with that. So I thought it was great. And then later on in the week, I did a little Giallo double feature with Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace. And then I moved into Argento Suspiria, 2 total classics. I think they're indelible to the genre. For listeners who don't know, Giallo, the Italian horror genre, sort of the precursor to the more vulgar American slasher film, but really great at making style a substance and talking through the visual language of light and color and shadows in a really fun kaleidoscope of horror. Suspiria, man, it's just, Argento didn't invent the genre, but he really perfected it. Just peak of his craft, right time in history, freaky as heck. Could watch it all day. So good.
All right. Okay, so I had busy. Somehow I managed to watch a decent amount of things, but I'm going to try to be brief about it. First thing I actually watched this movie twice this week, and it didn't mean to, but I watched this on my own, and then I ended up watching this with my family after the fact. And this is You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah from
I heard this was good.
Sandy Cohen. This is the newest film from Happy Madison Productions, Adam Sandler's company. And this stars the entire Adam Sandler family: Sonny Sandler, Sadie Sandler, Jackie Sandler, and of course, Adam Sandler. Also stars Idina Menzel, Luis Guzman, and Samantha Lorraine. Now, I used to enjoy Adam Sandler's early films, probably up through Big Daddy was the last one that I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. Then they got really stupid, and I have not really kept up with them. Mm-hmm. But even though this is a Happy Madison joint, this is technically a comedy. It is not a traditional Adam Sandler comedy. This one really does have a heart and a message to it. It's about a daughter of this family who's preparing for her bat mitzvah, and she's 13 and in the 7th grade and is going through all the drama that a 13-year-old girl goes through: boys, social media mishaps, angst with friends and frenemies, and of course all the tension with her family. And it's got, all these feelings, and it feels very authentic. As you know, I have a daughter that's exactly the same age as this girl, pretty much. She's 12, and she's also preparing for her bat mitzvah. So, I am witnessing firsthand under my own roof a lot of the things happening in this movie. And I felt very close to home, at least from a parent perspective. So for parents out there with daughters at this age, it's the perfect Halloween movie because it was freaking terrifying. I watched this, and I came out and I told the rest of the family, I think I have a movie that we should all watch together. Scared the hell out of me. But yeah, and Adam Sandler, if he deters you, don't worry. It is not a slapsticky movie. It really is a decent movie. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that is what I watched a couple times this week. I also since we watched American Gigolo, I decided, I want to catch up with the latest from Paul Schrader. So I watched the most recent one, Master Gardener, which came out a year ago. This it seemed like the perfect way of if is anyone else familiar with this film or his trilogy of the Man in the Room trilogy that he did, which includes First Reform from 2017 or 2021's The Card Counter?
Yeah. The Card Counter. I love both of those movies. I thought First Reform was a masterpiece.
I actually like both those. I actually like The Card Counter a little bit more, but they're both phenomenal. Anyways.
I need to see it again.
So I think Master Gardener is by far the weakest of the three for me. It stars Joel Edgerton, who I typically like in movies, but I think in this film, the casting didn't work for me. Also has Sigourney Weaver and Quintessa Swindell, I think is how you say it. In a nutshell, Joel Edgerton is a gardener working in an estate run by Sigourney Weaver. Weaver's niece comes to the estate to join the workforce, but her mom died, and Edgerton is asked to take care of her and take her under a wing and show her the ropes of gardening. We learn about his dark past, which creates this interesting dynamic, and as to why he takes a liking to this niece. It's a very, very odd movie, which shouldn't surprise you, but it didn't really work for me. Overall, I thought this film was just really strange, and I found it very unsatisfying. But it's
a bummer.
If you compare this to First Reformed in The Card Counter, I think it's inferior. So that's that. And
although hard to live up to the hype of those.
I did catch up on Killers of the Flower Moon, and I'm not going to give much of a review because you guys said everything about it last week, and I echo everything you said. This movie absolutely gutted me to the bone. I think it may be Martin Scorsese's greatest film since Goodfellas. I think it absolutely is his best film since Goodfellas, and maybe his second or third best of all time. I love that movie. So all I'm going to say about it. And One other thing I watched was because, as you already mentioned, it is, even though this is coming out in November, it is just before Halloween. I watched Angel Guts High School Co-Ed. This is a series of a first movie of a series of films from. This is what's the director of this? This is Chizu Son, who is kind of this. He's like a Japanese exploitation director. He's been around for decades and decades. I think he passed away 10 years ago or so. I forget exactly, but I said, I'm going to see what these movies are about, and I watched the first movie in this series of films, and it was something. This movie has some really horrific abuse towards women, which made this hard to watch. But I will say that it really is an art house film, and I love a well-crafted, low-budget, grimy, filthy bootstraps production when I see one, and this one was interesting. And I am curious to see the rest of the movies in this series. But if you have an issue with horrible violence toward women, do not watch this movie because it holds nothing back. But yeah, the last thing I just want to say, because I cannot wait for this, Silent Night is the new John Woo movie coming out on December 1st.
Yes.
The holidays are around the corner. So I think, yeah. I just wanted to put this on everyone's radar. It looks like a hell of a lot of fun. The trailer is out everywhere. It's an action thriller. It has no dialogue. It stars Christian McCurry, who many know from the Suicide Squad films. He plays Rick Flag in those movies. Probably the best part of those films, especially that first one. That movie was trash, but Christian McCurry was great in it. I'm just psyched because John Woo is returning to Hollywood. It's his first American feature since 2003's Paycheck. It looks like it's going to be a bloody good time, and I can't wait to see it in the theater. It's coming out December 1st. So there's my exposition dump of everything that I've been watching or can't wait to see. There you have it. So any other final thoughts before we wrap it up? Okay, thank you. Sam, I see you still trying to test your eyes there. You're fine. Don't worry about it. Yes. You're just getting old. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, this was fun. I need water because I've been just talking for like 8 minutes straight here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that concludes our show for this week. We sincerely appreciate your listenership this week. As a final reminder, if you're enjoying what you hear, please consider leaving a rating and review. Your support truly brightens our day. The ideal platforms for this are Apple Podcasts or iTunes, or whichever platform you use to access our content. To stay updated, don't forget to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, Frame Rate Monthly, by sending an email to backtotheframerate@gmail.com. Back to the Frame Rate is a proud member of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. You can find that at Back to the Frame Rate. And of course, the most effective way to support us is by sharing our episodes on your social media platforms. That's it. The show is over. Goodbye.
I want you to know it's over.